Okay, today we're gonna try to finish some in Reish Samach Gimel. Sif Hey over here, we already had a lot of sessions on it on the past. It's a very applicable. Simon, we'll just summarize some of the main highlights that we didn't already cover that the Piskei Teshuvos addresses regarding the process of lighting. The custom is that women do say the bracha silently, and the her family members, including the husband, do not need to hear the bracha. There's also a custom that for women to be wearing Shabbos clothing. They're wearing nicer clothing when they light. It should be pointed out that the Mishnah Brew already, as we already learned in the past, and we have the recordings up to prove it. In Siman Reis Samach Beis already discusses if she's pressed for time, she just came out of the shower, let's say, and she doesn't have time to put on her Shabbos clothing. She could just quickly throw something else on if she's already in her weekday clothing. It's better that she light on time rather than light too late, and it could, God forbid, go into actual Shabbos. So that would be a no-no over there. The Pesach Chuvas continues and relates that there is actually a custom to give stuck as well, to give charity when you light candles. There definitely is that concept as well. Some even they wash their hands before they light, like you're washing before you daven. And the idea is that whatever you're using, we're going to be discussing in a few sifim, matches versus lighters versus a candle if you're using to light. But whatever you're using, you should hold it in the right hand. This would be no worse than what is discussed in Siman Reish Vav, that we should use our stronger hand. Furthermore, a person shouldn't interrupt verbally. A verbal interruption. This is very relevant. The person might think, "Oh, I'm lighting the candles, but I didn't say the bracha yet. I could interrupt." We're talking about a woman who has the custom to cover her eyes. Therefore, this teaches us that you shouldn't interrupt because it's really all part of the same mitzvah, and you shouldn't interrupt. There's a custom also to say special prayers after a woman lights. A lot of times, it's an emotional experience. There is a discussion about someone who just got married for the first time, or the same would apply to someone who's lighting for the first time, a woman, for whatever reason, that the custom is not to say Shechianu the first time lighting. However, there's a idea of having expensive clothing, a new garment, or a new fruit on the table, and she could recite the bracha of Shechianu either before the she lights or after, and she has the fruit over there and the fruit in mind or the clothing. So
Is it an eighth zone or it's just
yeah, it's a special time, special. That's where it comes from. So that's the discussion about the Shechianu over there. There's a discussion if you made a mistake regarding the text of the bracha. If on Yom Kippur person accidentally said Bahadlik Ner Shel Yom Tov, one would fulfill her obligation or his obligation. Because Yom Kippur at the end of the day is a holiday, is a Yom Tov. If a person made a mistake on Yom Kippur or on another Yom Tov and said the bracha Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbos, so she said Shabbos and Yom Tov, also that would be fine because Yom Tov is also called Shabbos. However, if she said the bracha on Shabbos Lahadlik Ner Shel Yom Tov, she would not fulfill her obligation. And if it's before sunset, she should return and sit next to the candles, cover her eyes, and recite the bracha properly, and then afterwards look at the candles. It's a whole discussion that we discussed already about the bracha of Shechianu. There's already, he wants to say that there's a prevalent custom to say Shechianu on Yontif. If a man is lighting, he certainly should not say Shechianu. Furthermore, if a woman is going to be saying Kiddush herself later, she should not say Shechianu when she lights. We already discussed this at length in the past. This is basically what we saw. The Shilas Tshuva Shelas Yabeitz was quoted all over the place. Rabbi Yaakov Emden in Chelik Aleph and Simon Kuf Zayin. This is basically the source of the tshuva. We don't need to go through the tshuva, but um, we already pretty much went through it. A lot of what we saw was already quoted word for word. One of my favorite parts of this tshuva is he says, "I wanted to rebuke my wife and tell her not to light the candles, not to say shachianu on Yom Tov. V'afal pikein lo asisi ma'aseh." I still couldn't do it. I couldn't tell my wife not to, and he goes through it. Very nice tshuva in the footnote. Tough mem aleph over here. He quotes over here the Yosef Ometz who says that I didn't find any posik who said such a thing that you need to say Shechianu. Shechianu is really supposed to be on the cup of wine. The Or Zarua is quoted, quoting the Yerushalmi in Brachos in the ninth parak that says that on the night of Yom Tov, you should say the bracha of the Hadlik Ner for Yom Tov, and you don't need to say Shechianu. So already 1,000 years ago, he was saying you don't need to say Shechianu. The Or Zarua continues, I meant the Sheila Shabbos continues in this, and he goes into this. You could say Shechianu anywhere, technically, even in the middle of the marketplace. And I just said, leave them. They have a Yerusha, it's an inheritance to say the Shechianu, but the truth of the matter is, it's not so simple, and he said that it has no yesod, no foundation over here, no basis to it. This is the truth of the Abbots. They all quoted. I just wanted to bring it up, share it with everyone over here on the screen itself, so everyone could see it. What else did I want to mention? Yeah, I brought this up to my wife. She said, "Don't try to take that shechianu away from me."
Really?
I said, okay, but on Rosh Hashanah, let's go to Rosh Hashanah, and what's the basis? Figure it out, Ask anyone, like, it's definitely what to think about. There's definitely what to look into. She actually had a good point, and I'm gonna say the point after. I just want to run through the dirshu on this. On the second night of Rosh Hashanah, so there's a doubt if it's a independent holiday or not, if it's an independent Yom Tov. This is a dirshu in footnote 32, and you need to say Shechianu or not. So later on in Siman Tafresh Sukkot and Daled, the custom is that women do say Shechianu when they light. But because of this doubt, and we learned about this already on the Shechianu session that we had, she should either have a new fruit or she should wear very nice clothing. And we already learned the Shal Tshuva Sigros Moshe previously, quoting the Abbots who didn't like this, but nevertheless said that on Rosh Hashanah the custom is that they do say Shechianu. So my wife came along and said, "Why don't you just always have a new fruit, new clothing by every single Yom Tov?" Which already there's what to talk about, but it seems like we're only trying to do that every Yom Tov because it's suffix with the Shechianu. Yeah, suffix with the Shechianu. You're not sure if you're going to say the Shechianu. So to get out of it, just like on Rosh Hashanah, we have a fruit or we have new clothing, so too on every Yom Tov. So the answer is because on Rosh Hashanah you have a real doubt if you're
Real
supposed
stuff
to
like
do
Yom.
right, as opposed to every other Yom Tov. So therefore, that's why it's only brought to try to do. But I guess you have nothing to lose if you're going to do it, because if you're saying Shechianu anyways, you might as well just have a new fruit.
Practically back in the day, how many new fruits did they
Okay,
have?
but we're talking about nowadays. We have a lot of new fruits. They're readily available. A lot of times, my sister told me actually, who lives in Florida, that they have these. She said she calls it Gan Eden as a joke. They have this place that you pay money to go in, or I don't know if it's free, whatever. It's not so much or something, and you go in and all exotic fruits. You could look at it and everything. And the rule is you're not allowed to take from the fruits when they're on the tree. Only if they're on the floor. That's what she calls a Gan
Get
Eden.
sent out of the gun if he's there.
Yeah, she said she had some friends, they'd pick it off, you're not supposed to, whatever. Because you pick it off, there's gonna be nothing left, and really they're
Wow.
ripe when they fall. I don't know, they have the rules. So the truth of the matter is if you taste the fruit, they're exotic fruit and they're not readily available and sold in supermarkets because they're just
They
not
don't
as
taste
good.
good. Yeah.
Right. The fruit that we have just tastes good. That's the ones that are available. So right, if there are Jews around and there isn't a food that everyone's eating, it's for a good reason. Any culture, sushi, it will make it in. If it's good, we're gonna eat it, right? And it's kosher. But anyways, so that's the whole discussion with the Shechianu. You really do have nothing to lose. It's a good point that my wife said. Regarding Shechianu on Yom Kippur in Siman Tafresh Yud Tes of Cotton Zion, there's a custom to say Shechianu then as well. So it's a Shulchan in Siman Kuf Lamed Aleph says that Yom Kippur has the status of other Yom Tovim. Kaf HaChaim in Siman Tov Reish Yud Sivkot and Zion says that in Yom Kippur women could say Shechianu according to all opinions. However, the custom is, they point out, is that many women um, they actually quote the Pri Yitzchak and the Aruch HaShulchan, who says there is a custom to say Shechianu. I actually looked up this Pri Yitzchak. I actually have the Sefer. It's a little bit of dust in it. I haven't opened it in some time. But in the Shalos Tshuvas Pri Yitzchak, Rabbi Yitzchak Belzer and Chelik Beis Simin test, he says, Lanias Daiti, according to my humble opinion, he says that if a woman is saying Shechiano, then she cannot make a condition not to accept Yontif on herself. That if a woman is saying Shechiano, then he goes through, if you look up the tshuva inside, which I just did actually, that you cannot say already a Shechiano. You can't make a condition, excuse me, if you say Shechiano, and he goes through it there, but you clearly see that he holds that women could, in fact, do Shechianu on Yom Tov itself. Moshe Feinstein also said that this is already a custom for hundreds of years. The stipler, when he himself would light, when he was a widower, as we learned in the past, he would not say Shechianu when he lit because he would do it when he said Kiddush. And any woman who's going to be saying Kiddush certainly shouldn't say Shechianu when she lights. So, look, at the end of the day, there's a whole discussion. They quote also the Brisker Rav, who said that they should not be saying Shechianu. This bracha is established, preferably to be said when you do Kiddush, and that's the story over there. So, look, at the end of the day, and if it was up to me, if I would make the decision, I would say it's better not to say Shechianu
A woman.
when a woman lights on Yom Tov, except for Rosh Hashanah, with the whole new fruit story. 100% not. What's the basis to say it? Why would you say it? You're going to do it during Kiddush. So you want to say, oh, she wants to say the Shechianu herself. Okay, I'm saying you don't say with Kiddush. It's supposed to be in Kiddush. It's not supposed to be by Nair. Who says that it's supposed to be there? Anyone's trying to do a defense at best, and it's not strong. You see the overwhelming majority of rabbis all throughout the last, the hundreds and hundreds of years already say not to. That's all. That's what I think. That's what I think. Once we're on the Dirshu, we should just point out that we were talking about a messenger, a katan, a minor, according to Rav Elyashim, footnote 29, there later over here, cannot be a messenger to light the Shabbos candles since he can't fulfill the obligation of someone who's older or gadol. So katan wouldn't work. So they point that out over here. Whole discussion about if you're a messenger, do you need to stand there or not? He discusses in footnote 30. Quote another point over here, another few points, that is, someone who has the custom to make the bracha after lighting, aka what we did, and she accidentally said the bracha beforehand. We're going to see actually by Svardim, what do they do when they light? Because the Ramah is the only one who said that you should cover your eyes. You should cover your eyes when you light because it could be that when you say the bracha, you accept Shabbos upon yourself. So therefore, the Ramah comes along and says, light the candles, don't look at it, so to say, and then you say the bracha, and then you look at the candles and get pleasure from it. The Ramah only said that. The Shulchan Aruch didn't say that. So what does Sephardim hold? So there's going to be two customs with Sephardim. Some say you just say the bracha first,
Okay.
because they hold, and we're going to be learning about this more in the upcoming in a few sifrim from now, but we're going to be learning about this more, that you accept Shabbos upon yourself, not when you say the bracha. Women, not when you say the bracha. Rather, it's when you light. So according to that, that's why Shulchan Aruch didn't offer this possibility over here. Entertain the possibility of putting your hands in front of it and everything, and rather it could be that, and that's why many Sfardim they just say the bracha and then they light after. Some go like the Ramah, also, and they do put their hands in front of it. But let's say you have a Ashkenaz woman who always puts her hands before, right? Says the bracha after she lights, and now she accidentally said the bracha first.
Before.
Before she said the bracha first, she's like, "Oh my gosh, I messed up. The Drisha's mother got to me on Shabbos, and I messed up what the Magen Avraham was worried about, right?" Which, by the way, I'm going to share what the Drisha's mother says. I have it on the screen. So, what's the halacha in that case? So the answer is that she could still light. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says she could light. Not only could she light, but she could light all the amount of candles that she typically lights, um, and that's the idea. So that's what Shlomo Zalman Auerbach said. It's evident that she didn't accept Shabbos on herself, right? And therefore she wanted to finish the entire lighting. So that's the discussion over there. And that's basically a summary of the notes in the Dershu. That's the Sheila Savage. That's the Pri Yitzchak. Just a miscellaneous uh, thing over here, which should be which is going to be very interesting. This is in the introduction to the. It's called the Hagdamas Ben Hamachaber Prisha Udrisha. This is the introduction to the Drisha and Prisha to Your Deya. And basically, to summarize what he says over here is that the Drisha's mother didn't like two things that were happening. Women were making a mistake with two things when it came to lighting candles in general. Number one, that how they were waving their hands in front of their head. At first, they were lighting the candles, and then they were putting their hands in front of their head and then saying the bracha afterwards. He didn't like that. He quotes over here this whole thing that isn't highlighted, the background to it. We don't need to see it again because we already know about it uh, very well. So he says, look, that makes sense by Shabbos because you're not allowed to light after Shabbos. However, on Yom Tov itself, it's permissible to light the where it's permissible to use a fire. So therefore, it's better that the bracha is made beforehand, like it should be, that the bracha is before any mitzvah. And look at what he says: "Ulahadlik haneira shel Yom Tov kimo shel Chanukah." You should light the candles on Yom Tov like you do on Chanukah, aka to say the bracha first and then to light after. So I just want to say a little bit of a chiddush, an insight. I usually don't say like insights, whatever. But the truth of the matter is, I think that with the Chassam Sofer's explanation to defend the mother's drisha from the Magen Avram's question is alluded to in the words of the drisha itself. Okay, how so? So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull up over here exactly what I'm talking about, just so that everyone could appreciate it. So if you look over here, this is the we have to go to Sifhei. This is what the Magen Avram came along right over here. Just to review, the Magen Avram said that on Yom Tov you should make the bracha first and then afterwards light. That's what the Drisha says, quoting his mother. And by the way, this Yud test goes to. That's how I knew to get to your day. This little letter over there, which is going to come up on the next page. I don't even know if I could highlight that thing. It's all this. Yeah, that letter, that Yud test, that's how I know, whatever, just a side point. But he says, no, it's not true. There's no difference. And he says, there's no difference. It's similar to washing hands, where the bracha is always after, because in exceptional case, you might come out of the bathroom, your hands are going to be no good. And Tosfos Psachim that said by a mikvah, if you go to the mikvah, someone who's converting can't say the bracha before because they're not Jewish, so you can't say v'tzivanu, so therefore the bracha is after. Just like by a mikvah, the bracha is after. So then, so too, and by Al Testan, the bracha is always after because of those exceptional cases. So too, when it comes to lighting on Yom Tov, you do the same way how you do it. Low plug, you didn't differentiate. You do the same way how you do it on Shabbos, but nevertheless, the Drisha's mother argues on that. So that's how the Machzis Shekel also understands this. So just keep in mind that's the letter Yud test over there. So the Machzis Shekel, that's what he explains the Magen Avram. That's a simple explanation of the Magen Avram. So comes along the Chassam Sofer. I mean, there's a few defenses. We already saw the Daglam Mervava, right? The Daglam Mervava in this version of the Shulchan Aruch, they're quoted in the Otzer Mefarshim on the bottom over here. So the Daglam Mervava. I think that's this first one that's longer. Yeah. Daglam Ravava says, what are you talking about over here? Over there, the bracha they're identical. You have Al Nitilas Yadayim, the bracha is always the same. And by mikvah, you have the bracha Hashem Tivanu Al Hatfila. The bracha is always the same, whether a woman's in nida or whether a person's converting. Whether a person's washing his hands before the bathroom after, the bracha is always the same. Therefore, you might come to get confused. Unlike by Yom Tov, it's a different text of the bracha. Typically, it's the Hadag Ner Shel Shabbos, and on Yom Tov, it's the Hadag Ner Shel Yom Tov. Therefore, you're not going to get confused. Comes along the Chassam Sofer and gives a much shorter answer. And he says, if you look inside, you'll see that she herself recognized this. Hirgisha Bazeh. So the Chassam Sofer himself points this out. It's not really a chiddush what I'm saying. He says, if you look in the Mother Drisha, she said, by Chanukah, what do? By Chanukah, we say the bracha beforehand. So we already see regarding something else By lighting, the bracha is already before. Therefore, Yom Tov could follow Chanukah, and the bracha could be before. If you look at the language of the Drisha says, "Mutav shenase birchas haneros kitikuna lios habracha over lasyosim lahadlak haneros shel Yom Tov kimo neros Chanukah." So it's hinted to in the words of the Drisha. And then I just wanted to share this. The second point of the Drisha said he's very against women lighting later on the first night of Yontif. Second night of Yontif, there's no other way. If it's a 2 day Yontif, you got to light later. But on the first night, says the Drisha's mother, you have to light on time. Light before Mariv. That's where it's established to be. That's where it's supposed to be. You want to accept Yom Tov upon yourself earlier. That's where it should be. And he says over here, to quote his language over here, this is more honor to Yom Tov. Just like on Shabbos, we do this. Everything is prepared immediately when we come back from shul's, tables ready, food's ready, etc. So too on the first night on Yom Tov. Furthermore, he says, even if you're allowed to do something on Yom Tov, such as lighting a fire, if you're able to do it before, take from a pre-existing fire rather, if you're able to do that malacha, that act beforehand, you can't now lichatchila do that on Yom Tov. If you're able to transfer a fire before Yom Tov, and you just say, "Oh, I'm going to save it for Yom Tov," that's not halachically preferable. So therefore comes the Drisha's mother for several reasons and says women must make sure to light on time on the first night of Yom Tov. The Drisha's mother. Back in the Piskei Teshuvos. So if a person made the mistake and said the bracha before she lit, she could light the candles after. As we saw in the Dirshu, it's consistent. All right. But if she already began lighting some of the candles and then made a mistake and said the bracha in the middle, you can't continue to light more candles over here. You can't continue it. Rather, she should ask her husband or someone else that didn't accept Shabbos upon himself to light the rest of the candles. He quotes over here that in the Sephardim, they have different customs if they go like the Ramah or not. If they just say the bracha before they light, or if they go like the Ramah and they light the candles, put their hands on, and then say the bracha after, and then look at it and get pleasure from candles. Different customs. On Yom Tov, that falls out during the week. Okay, we already saw that. Technically, you could do whatever you want. Like we said, better to go like the Drisha's mother if possible, and say the bracha beforehand. The question that I was always bothered by, and this actually came up on conversation. We already learned the Ramah, and we saw that women should do this. Why would they do this?
Right, you just have to do this.
You just have to cover. So we already saw the postscript. You put your hands in front of your eyes.
But what's with
What's with the this?
abracadabra thing?
Yeah. What's with the mamash peekaboo, right? Like yeah, you're doing a abracadabra exactly. So like I thought about this over Shabbos. Yeah, does it have any halachic basis? Hmm. They do it,
Not a
but
way to do it, yeah.
why would you do it? If anything, by the way, when you do it, so now you could see the candles much better, and then you're going to get pleasure from them,
You
which would be a
close your eyes
problem.
when you do
Yeah,
it.
you close your eyes. Okay, so then if you're closing your eyes, why do you need to put your hands over them? If you're putting your hands over them, why do you need to close your eyes?
Some Kabbalistic going on
Yeah,
over here.
where does all this come from? So if you look at this footnote, I got some. I mean, I really enjoyed learning this footnote that addresses this. And we didn't learn Rav Harfeniss's chuvas on this. I'm sure he has a lot of insights on this. He had like over 100 pages just on the Simon, so it's a little overwhelming. But I think the Mahalach is first. I'll finish Simon, then we could maybe come back to that for dessert or something. I don't know. We're doing a lot of. I don't want to do an overkill over here, but when you learn something, you want to learn it the right way. But so basically, the Ben Ish Chai says that you should close your eyes for Kabbalistic reasons. Exactly what you just said. So you were correct. He says for Kabbalistic reasons. Some have a custom to go like this 3 times before they cover their face. And he says, Lo matzino makor lezeh. Lo matzino lezeh makor. There's no source for this, which is what I was thinking. However, in the Sefer Noe Kitzoin Yosef, he says that you like surround the candles, like you do that, but it could mean that that's only to hide them from the eyes. That's why they would do it. You have to look that up to see what he's talking about. I didn't look it up. And he says, seemingly it would be worse because by doing this, now you could look at the candles more.
Someone do
Yeah, whatever you're doing,
covers the candles.
whatever you're doing, but you're now seeing it better. You're opening your scope of vision, so now you could see it better. So like,
You have to close the room.
yeah, so seemingly it's worse. And l'chachila yesh miyad begamar habakal levarach. You should preferably make the bracha immediately after you finish lighting.
Mhm.
You should recite the bracha and not get pleasure and look at the candles until after the bracha. However, al kagon da in this type of situation, ein lidchois kabbalah shabiyad anashim hazakenos mibnei imanu. The Rishal's Chuvas Hesed Moshe is quoted in the Chuvas Harashba, who says, "Don't reject, don't push off the tradition that the women have, the elder women have." Mipnei sheyasim rivo moifsim hamarim havchu ki choiki Yisrael l'maylim etav v'seichel. We can't understand this, why they do it. That's why they do it. So
There's no
the
explanation.
yeah, no explanation. It could be there's no alpi nigle. It could be Kabbalistic. There's a lot of Kabbalistic explanations, but we'll have to wait for the Kabbalah Chaburas. Anyways, fascinating idea over here, and this is what this is. Now, Reddy says over here that one should be careful, just because you are lighting the candles first and doing all of this, you should still try to say the bracha as soon as you're done lighting the candles and not to interrupt verbally or with other activities in the meantime. B'diavad, post facto, if you did interrupt, even with the verbal interruption, you are allowed to recite the bracha after, even if the interruption was after you completed lighting the candles. But one should still be careful in this regard. If on Yom Tov or for the Sfardim who have the custom, we always say the bracha before. If you interrupted between the bracha and lighting the candles, you would actually need to say a new bracha, according to the Kaf HaChaim, which makes sense because it wouldn't be any worse than if you wouldn't be any worse than if you just recited a bracha on a drink or on a food and then you had a verbal interruption after, which would halachically be a issue. Yeah, that is basically uh, everything that I thought was worthwhile to get in. We pretty much looked at the majority of those other Mishnah Berurah footnotes. We left out some, but this is a very applicable sif. There's a reason why the amount of sessions that we had on this sif is longer than all the previous sifim combined. This is really a major part of lighting candles, actual process of how to do it, Shabbos, Yom Tov, and all the details that came with it. Just share one more thing because we're actually ahead of schedule today. Looked at me and said, "How are we going to get all this done before all this farm and everything?" If it's well prepared, you could get a lot done in a little bit of time. In footnote 30 in the Dershu, they say this is going on the Mishnah Berurah, the first Mishnah Berurah of this Sif in Chav Aleph, that if the sender, the Mishaleach, is not standing in the place where the candles are being lit and listening to the bracha, this is referring to, well, based on what the Mishnah Berurah says. So Rav Elyashiv says that just like by Hanukkah, that would not be good unless the messenger is standing there. So too over here as well. And if the sender isn't in the house when the person who is sent is lighting, so then the shliach, the messenger, has to light a candle in the house, in his house with a bracha. You could do that and have in mind that the bracha will cover the bracha that he's going to say in the house of the person who sent him. And then afterwards, you could go to the sender's house, the person who sent him, and light over there, and the bracha will count for both places. Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach doubts if you could compare the two, the lighting on Shabbos to the lighting on Hanukkah, to menorah. So he's not sure what the status over there will be, or if the shliach, the messenger, could say the bracha, even though that the sender is not there. So, anyways, that's the story over there. And they quote the Igros Moshe, who says that the Mishnah Berurah did not write that the sender needs to stand in the place of lighting. That's only talking about if a man is lighting for a woman. who needs to fulfill our obligation. Shemei Kona listening is like answering. However, if a man is lighting for another man, then the sender would actually not need to hear the bracha from the messenger. From the shliach, he would fulfill his obligation because of arvos, which definitely applies man to man, kol Yisrael, Miriam Zelazel, like we learned in Hilchos Kiddush. Anyways, that is the sif. Any questions, comments on this sif? I think it's an eye opener in many ways. Shocker.
Wait, I don't know, what do we say? What was I didn't hear any reason why. We said it was the fanning as opposed to the covering. What was the whole thing?
No reason. Could
We,
be
we didn't find,
Kabbalistic reason.
we didn't say a reason yet, right?
No reason. Could be Kabbalistic.
Huh.
Yeah, pretty cryptic indeed.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, I mean, I think this is interesting stuff, and Shechianu is, I think, the biggest chiddush, biggest eye opener. But okay, so Mir Hashem, tomorrow we will resume with the next sif.
Hashem.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everyone, have a wonderful day. Brooklyn, Jeff.
Go,
sure.
a lot of stuff
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, jam packed.